If you're going to come to Thailand, then you definitely want to make sure you do not do any of the things that I'm going to mention in this video. Here is my list of some of the things you definitely don't want to do here in the Kingdom of Thailand. Hey, my name's Ben. If you're familiar with this channel, then maybe you already know, but I live in Thailand. I've been here and there for around 5 years, and like every country probably on the planet, then there are a few things that you should not do in certain countries, and Thailand is no different from any of those. So the first one is don't wear shorts to the temple or any official building for that matter. When you visit most temples in Thailand, you are asked to cover your legs and shoulders before entering. It is not only temples but also official offices and culturally significant buildings. For example, the Grand Palace you will be asked to cover up. Also, often at immigrations or embassies, you will likely be expected to wear appropriate clothing at least. Maybe this is something that is obvious to you. This is also something that happens in many places in Europe. If you visit some cathedrals in certain European countries or cities, you will definitely be asked to perhaps cover your shoulders with a shawl, or maybe even asked to wear trousers. In Thailand, if you go to a temple, then if you're a guy, you will have to cover your legs. You can't wear shorts at most temples. And if you're a woman, you'll probably have to wear something reasonably long, maybe down to your knees. And you'll also have to cover your shoulders with something. Typically, these places do happen to have people selling and even renting, in some cases, items of clothing that you can buy or borrow. One of the reasons why you'll see so many people wearing those elephant pants in temples in Thailand is because that maybe they visit, they turn up and they're wearing shorts, and outside there is someone happily who's found a gap in the market and is selling those full-length trouser pants. I have also noticed this at certain other buildings, like it's not just temples like the Grand Palace and certain other culturally significant places. You are expected to wear and cover up to a certain extent. I've noticed that some embassies ask you to wear full-length trousers. On top of that, if you're here for business, then you'll probably be expected to wear full-length trousers and a shirt and that kind of thing, even though it may seem like an absolute horrible idea. You know, if you're new to the climate and you're looking outside and it's absolutely baking hot, the idea of wearing full-length trousers and a shirt may really throw you off. But in certain circumstances, that is what would be expected of you and even required, like I said, when you're visiting temples and that kind of thing. I would 100% recommend you pack some full-length trousers if you're coming to Thailand. Not even just for this case, they also help protect you against the sun and mosquitoes, top tip. I really like those sort of lightweight sort of hiking trousers. I would definitely consider bringing a pair of those if you have something or something similar, just in case. Alright, so don't just bring shorts and bikinis. Maybe bring some full-length trousers and a long sleeve shirt of some kind. Also, while you're in Thailand, don't be offended if someone asks you your age. So in Thailand, it's actually pretty important, if you're Thai especially, and if you're speaking the Thai language, it's very important to gauge the other person's age in relationship to your own. As a rule of thumb, although it is a little bit more complicated than that, if you're addressing someone older than you, or if you're referring to them in conversation, then you would add a P before their name. For example, let's say you have a friend called Dan, and he is a bit older than you, then you would refer to him as P Dan. Now, this is very common in the Thai language. If someone is younger than you, you would refer to them as Nong. So again, let's say you had a younger cousin named, let's go with Jess, you would call her Nong Jess. That is pretty handy, especially if you're working in a school. Maybe there are some students and you want to get their attention. You can just shout Nong, and most of them should turn around if you shout that, so it can be pretty handy as well. But when Thais are communicating to each other, they will often, you know, if you're just meeting someone for the first time, you will often ask them their age, so you can establish the correct way to address them and the correct way to refer to them in conversation. That's kind of the basics of it, although there are different words for like grandparents and it gets a lot more complicated. It's very sort of complex social structure built into the language, I guess. But I would just like to make the point, this isn't a Thai lesson necessarily, although maybe you've learned something there, that'd be cool. But I did just want to let you know that it may crop up, people may ask you your age, and they're probably not doing it for any rude intentions. Often I do hear Thai people referring to foreigners with that kind of P or Nong in front of their name. It's so embedded in their sort of way of speaking that it seems to be the correct way to address someone and the polite way to do it. So they're probably not trying to be insulting. I know it's a bit of a taboo to ask people their age in the West, but it's definitely not in Asia. and it's 100% not in Thailand. It's actually sort of kind of essential if you're going to be communicating with someone. So try and see it through that lens and not through the lens of in your home country. I would like to point out that if you're not referring to people as P and Nong, you're definitely not going to be offending anyone in Thailand, especially if you're a foreigner. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about offending people by not using these terms. But you know, if you do start to make friends with locals here, then they may want to start addressing you in a manner that is polite in their culture. So try not to take it as an offensive sort of question. I know it can be a little bit off-putting for some people, but it's you know, it's really not out here. So try and remember that. So don't get offended if someone asks you your age. So there is an old saying in England that is, don't talk politics and religion, and that is definitely true in Thailand. I think this is reasonable advice when visiting any foreign country. It is probably best to not spout off about local politics whilst you're in the country. This is especially true in some countries more than others, especially those with strict defamation laws and left magistrate laws in effect. This is a topic I don't even feel comfortable discussing, but I think I would be doing you a disservice in making this video if I didn't mention the fact that in Thailand there are laws that can punish those who speak ill of the head of state, whom in a kingdom would be the king. So in plain language, if you're seen to be being disrespectful to the head of the state in the kingdom, then potentially you could be punished by law. On a slightly lighter note, don't touch someone else's head. In Thailand, the head is considered sacred and is seen as the cleanest part of the body. And as such, it is seen as taboo to touch or pat someone on the top of the head. I doubt you will find yourself in the situation of tapping someone on holiday on the top of the head, but it is worth bearing in mind. In the West, we hug and shake hands with friends. In the East, they bow and keep a little bit more distance. Perhaps you make a new friend whilst in Thailand and want to shake their hand or give them a hug. I doubt they will mind, but please remember they may not find it comfortable if you touch their hair or their head. So yeah, it is kind of seen as sort of derogatory to sort of tap someone on the top of the head. Very young children, it's probably not that much of an issue, but as soon as they start to get above 10, 11, 12, it's seen as kind of quite a derogatory thing to do, to sort of pat someone or touch someone on the head, or an inappropriate thing to do to touch their hair. So yeah, I'd probably definitely avoid it anyway, because it's seen as kind of rude. I think most Thai people know that this isn't the case in Western countries, so they may give you kind of a pass. They may not get insulted or upset if you did it by accident. But obviously, if you're visiting a country, you want to be cautious, and it helps to be knowledgeable about cultural norms. So I thought I would share it with you that it is actually kind of inappropriate to touch someone or tap someone on the top of the head or the hair. As I mentioned, the head is seen as sacred and the cleanest part of the body. That's why it's kind of inappropriate to tap someone on the head. Reversely, the foot and the bottom of the shoe specifically, or especially, is seen as the dirtiest part of the body. So you definitely don't want to do something like show someone the bottom of your shoe. So you need to be careful if you're carrying your shoes or your flip-flops. You don't want to point at something with your foot. You don't want to touch something with your foot in the company of others. They may find it kind of a little bit sort of disgusting. I think that's how they see it. So yeah, you definitely want to be cautious of that. Don't tap anyone on the top of the head, and be careful who you wave your feet at. On the topic of feet, let's continue and let's go on to the next one, which is don't forget to take off your shoes. This is something that catches everyone out. This is something that has caught me out in the past, especially when I was new to Thailand, and it is pretty embarrassing. But it does seem to happen to everyone at least one time. You will probably find yourself stepping into a shop, not realizing they expect you to take your shoes off. Now, in Thailand, if you're visiting a house, then I'd probably say 99% of the time you will be expected to take your shoes off at the front door. In fact, I do it at my house here. Now, most houses don't have carpets, they have tiles. You know, there's a lot of dust and that, and so it's really hard to clean. I think that's one of the reasons, but like we mentioned also previously, culturally, the bottom of the shoe is seen as like a really dirty thing, so it's left sort of at the door, on a mat, or outside the house. If you visit a temple or like a culturally significant place, once again, like a temple or a palace or anything like that, then there's probably going to be areas where you're expected to take your shoes off also. So if you visit any of those types of sites while you're holiday sightseeing, and I'm sure you will, then definitely keep your eyes out. Try and see if there's a pile of shoes anywhere. Try and see if everyone else is wearing shoes or not, especially when you're in those types of places. The most confusing part and the most confusing place I find is like kind of in shops. Surprisingly, some shops, although it's not common, do actually expect you to take your shoes off. This is where I tripped up. I was at a night market. There was like a row of shops. None of the other shops seemed to mind you walking in with shoes. One of them did. I stepped in, and, you know, sort of kind of pissed off at the shop owners. But even if you go to sort of like local shops, especially the ones where they're kind of family owned, and perhaps the shop is in the downstairs part of the house, there will be a living area, and you don't want to cross the line of the living area, even if there are products and shop area behind that. They will seem to probably have a line or something where they don't want you to cross with your shoes. So that's something that's tricky that you have to try and figure out. Once again, it probably wouldn't be a big deal. In my case, they did shout at me and tell me to get out of the shop, take my shoes off. But I was new in Thailand and didn't understand what was being said. So yeah, I kind of sort of just shuffled away, sort of a little bit confused. In retrospect, I understand what was happening. I think if you did this by accident, probably most people wouldn't mention it. But you definitely don't want to do it in someone else's house if you ever get invited to someone's house. You definitely don't want to do it in sort of the areas in the temple or the shrines or the palaces that you perhaps might visit. You don't want to, you know, walk in the areas where you're supposed to take your shoes off in those cases. So remember to take off your shoes. That does it for this video. Let me know in the comment section if there's anything else you think you should definitely not do in Thailand. I'd definitely love to hear your stories and what you think you shouldn't be doing while you're out here in the kingdom. If you're planning a visit to Thailand and you want to know about the visas for Thailand available to you, then I did make a video all about visas for Thailand, so I'll leave that over here. So check out that video if you're looking to travel to Thailand and want to know more about visas.